This is Michael Popok, and it's Legal AF After Dark. I've heard of cannon fire, but never firing cannon. And that's what's just happened with Donald Trump, who effectively offered a job to Aileen Cannon, the only judge in the criminal world that's been in his back pocket. By offering her a job, she's likely to be removed from the Mar-a-Lago criminal case once it's restored by the 11th Circuit. But Donald Trump didn't care. He felt that he had to bolster her credentials as he relied on her legal, quote-unquote, analysis in two new filings, one at the D.C. election, or the D.C. election interference case before Judge Chutkan, one at the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals about Mar-a-Lago, all things Aileen Cannon. It can make your head spin. We grab your head, stop it from spinning, and tell you what's going on Legal AF, the podcast. Take a listen.
Let's talk, though, still within the contours and confines of our legal system, the types of games that Donald Trump is playing. Appointing Judge Aileen Cannon. She's at his top of the short list for being an attorney general. It's her and this guy, Mike Davis, who was, and Mike Davis was a kind of normal, at first, normal Federalist, kind of, if those things even make sense, and they don't anymore, but back then. And then he kind of radicalized into full MAGA. And now he posts things about like throwing Mark Cuban into gulags, and he's on Trump's short list, as well, and posts other things like that. I mean, this is actually a post from Donald Trump. If it's not Judge Cannon, it's this guy. But be very clear. Judge Cannon and this guy are identical, right? She's the female version of him. So even though she's not posting on Twitter or X or whatever, these are her perspectives as well. It's why she and him would, it'll either be one of them who would be AG,
or it's Jeff Clark, who's been indicted in Georgia and who wants to use the Insurrection Act to crush American citizens on their own soil. Or it's Ginny Thomas's personal lawyer, who's the best friends of Clarence Thomas, who helped get him confirmed. Those are the choices for the attorney general position.
But just think about it. You have Mark Cuban out there who's just letting Americans know that, hey, Donald Trump doesn't know what a tariff is, which is what media should be reporting too. When Donald Trump says, I'm going to tariff China, that's not a thing. You don't tariff China. You put tariffs as tax on imports where you're taxing American companies, and you are ultimately passing that through to the consumer to try to disincentivize importing foreign products. That's what a tariff is. So Mark Cuban's like going through all the economic analysis to say, look, under all of these plans, Donald Trump's plan, Social Security runs out in 6 years. Donald Trump's plan, we go into a Great Depression pretty quickly because these policies are absolutely disastrous. They make no sense either. And the response by Donald Trump's pick for the fact that Cuban is just exercising his First Amendment right to say intelligently and articulate Donald Trump's vision would cause economic catastrophe, is to say, throw Mark Cuban in a gulag. But that's what they're going to do. That's what Trump's saying. What do you think he means when he says round you up? You are the enemy within. It's going to be bloody. What do you think that means? Anyway, Judge Aileen Cannon, we learned as kind of the quid pro quo on the short list. But then Donald Trump's motion to Judge Chutkan in the D.C. case was the motion that worked in Judge Cannon's case, where Judge Cannon said special counsels don't exist. There's no such thing for Donald Trump. There are such things as special counsels within the DOJ that apply to Hunter Biden. That's cool. Special counsels can prosecute Hunter Biden. Special counsels can prosecute anybody else historically. But with Donald Trump, we think that the Constitution now says special counsels don't exist. Why? Because Judge Cannon just made it up. And now that's being appealed. But Donald Trump's now going back to Chutkan and saying, look at what Judge Cannon did. And so talk about the quid pro quo here, Popok, and also if you can talk through, this motion's obviously going to fail, but I think Trump's trying to set up, in Trump's mind, if he were to win, he'll then kind of figure out a way to use that motion as a way to, that's his plan. And again, I don't think he's going to win. I want to be clear, but it's really putting a marker down to try to get the case dismissed if he were to win.
I've been trying to unpack the fake leak, because I don't believe it was a leak. I think it was done on purpose, of telling MAGA that Donald Trump was going to reward Aileen Cannon, the only judge that's been on his side, basically guaranteeing that she'll be disqualified and or reassigned by the 11th Circuit. Why he would do that? Did he need it to activate his base to say, hey, I've just rewarded one of your, everybody that's got like a poster of Aileen Cannon in their bedrooms in the MAGA bro world. Hey, I'm going to give her the job of Attorney General. Isn't that great? Like, he didn't need to do that in order to activate his base. The people who are going to vote for Donald Trump are going to vote for Donald Trump. The question is, has he been making any new voters in the last 2 months or 3 months since Kamala Harris has been here? And I think the answer to that is a resounding no. So why do it? Then I was on with Mike. I had Michael Cohen on Legal AF's new channel, the one we do in collaboration with MeidasTouch, Legal AF, MTN, for those that are looking. And we were trying to cogitate a little bit on our hot take about why. And I kind of came up with it after Michael and I were done, because within 24 hours of the Aileen Cannon being offered a job by the person that was a criminal defendant in front of her, think about that for a moment. Donald Trump's lawyers then filed back-to-back 2 motions extolling the virtue of her legal analysis in a motion or a request to file a motion. That's the way you got to do it in Judge Chutkan's courtroom right now, to file a motion to have Judge Chutkan adopt the legal reasoning of Judge Cannon, who dismissed 40-count indictment against Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago, in the Mar-a-Lago indictment, finding for the first time in 200 years of constitutional jurisprudential analysis that the Attorney General, who heads the Department of Justice, isn't empowered to appoint inferior officers without having them all confirmed through the Senate, which makes absolutely no sense. And so if we did, they can barely, look, let's be frank, it doesn't matter who's at the top of the ticket in the Oval Office. In 1 4-year term, any president can barely get his judges affirmed. Can you imagine if he had to do special counsels and then even in that argument, I never quite understand the argument, because it's counter to their the foundation of their argument. Their argument at the Trump level is separation of powers. Then why are we putting things through Congress that should only be reserved for the executive branch? That's not a separation of powers argument. So once I saw the filing with Judge Chutkan saying, just do what Cannon did, dismiss this indictment because special counsel Jack Smith was unconstitutionally appointed and unconstitutionally funded. See, even though Cannon's the only one that's ever come up with that, and they cited in that filing 3 pieces of support, and I put support in quotes. Aileen Cannon, Clarence Thomas's 2-page concurrence that nobody else joined in at the Supreme Court level during the immunity decision, which was effectively just a love note to Aileen Cannon telling her to dismiss the case related, because Jack Smith was just a stranger to the case, a citizen that was prosecuting the case on his own. And then Ed Meese, who's 93 years old and used to be, you can look him up, used to be a attorney general under Reagan and got indicted himself. And in the first paragraph of all the filings, whether it's with Judge Chutkan or at the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals that also got filed the following day, so all within the last 48 hours, making the exact same arguments for the second time or third time, is a reference to a statement that Joe Biden made during a campaign stop 2 days ago, in which he misspoke. And, let's be honest, I love Joe Biden, as they call him on Saturday Night Live, but he occasionally gets a little tongue-tied even before this era of his life. He got tongue-tied in his 40s. And in his 50s, the first time he ran for president, he was notoriously known as somebody that would use what we call malaprops. He would say sort of the wrong thing at the wrong time. And he did it again. He said to a group of people cheering on, he was campaigning a little bit for Kamala. He said, if I had said this 5 years ago, I would be locked up, but we got to lock up Donald Trump. And when everybody started chanting and cheering, he was like, I mean, politically. So we know what Joe meant. But the aha moment, it's in the first paragraph, second footnote of the new filings. It's been revealed. It's the politicization of the weaponization of the Department of Justice that we've said. See what Joe Biden just said? That's how desperate they are and how weak their arguments are, that this is the foundation for it. And Judge Chutkan, I'll stay in the D.C. court for a minute. Judge Chutkan already previewed where she's going. Because on September the 5th, when they got together in their status conference hearing, after the superseding indictment was obtained by Jack Smith, who smartly got a new indictment from a grand jury after seeing the Trump immunity decision by the Supreme Court in July. He's like, oh, let me see that. What do I have to do? All right, let's get it. We got a grand jury in D.C. anywhere? Yeah, we got one. All right, let's go in there. I want a new superseding indictment to make sure it comports with the teachings of this rule, of this new order by Chief Justice Roberts and the majority. They raised their hand when she said any other matters, and the Trump lawyers, Emile Beauvais, Todd Blanche, the usual suspects, they said, yeah, we're going to be bringing a motion based on what Judge Cannon did down in Florida to dismiss this entire indictment because special counsel, he's not even supposed to be here. There's no special counsels. This is all improper, despite precedent at least reinforced in 1974 during our last criminal presidency of Nixon, where they endorsed the use of the appointment of inferior or special attorneys under the attorney general directly in order to be a special or independent prosecutor. So, and right there in the hearing, it was reported that Judge Chutkan said, well, I'll just do my version of it, like my hands and the head and the hands. I didn't really find that to be intellectually persuasive or legally persuasive, but I'm not going to stop you from bringing the motion. But I'm just giving you kind of a heads up on that. In other words, Aileen Cannon is so far to the fringe of analysis on this that no one's going to support her. And so they brought it. And now and then the brief that was filed yesterday at the 11th Circuit, which is Donald Trump finally got around a month later to filing his brief a couple of days before the election to tell the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, which sits in Atlanta over the Mar-a-Lago case, that Judge Cannon was right. Now I see why they publicized the job offer to Judge Cannon to give her sort of bolster her credentials as a legal scholar, and almost like a veiled threat that not only could Aileen Cannon be the attorney general, but let's be frank, if Donald Trump gets near the White House again, she's going to be the attorney general. And if she's not the attorney general and or Supreme Court, because she could be the attorney general for a year and then there's an opening and he elevates her from Supreme Court, from attorney general to Supreme Court. So they wanted that story out there while they filed these things. It all became very clear to me once I saw the filings and the timing of the filings. So here's what's good. Chutkan, she's going to allow the motion to be filed off of this request. She's going to have the full briefing, and then she's going to deny the motion to dismiss the indictment because Jack Smith is a figment of our imagination. There's another thing I'm going to do a hot take on later. I'm not even sure that just because, even if Jack Smith was improperly appointed or confirmed or whatever, or funded or whatever the argument is, I don't think that does a darn thing to the indictment. He did not render the indictment. The indictment was rendered by two separate grand juries. Okay. And if you have to replace him with somebody at Maine Justice, or you have to replace him with the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, then so be it. But I don't think I don't think there's a fruit of the poisonous tree indictment doctrine that destroys the indictment. Now, Jack Smith's not ready to go there because he's not going to try to turn 200 years of special counsels on their head and admit that they're right and they're not right. But I still don't think that solves their problem of getting rid of the indictment. They have, by a byproduct, though, probably just removed Aileen Cannon from the case. And if it gets reassigned to another federal judge after the 11th Circuit rules, sometime in first quarter 2025, then it's going to go back to one of the normal judges in the Southern District of Florida, many of which I know. And he will not be getting the benefit of having Aileen Cannon any longer. And if he loses, prosecution continues, Jack Smith isn't fired, pardons aren't granted, Aileen Cannon isn't given a job, and the world is better. It's like it's a wonderful life, and we woke up and there's our wife and our children and all of our friends, as opposed to what happened in the movie. So that's where we are with Chutkan and Cannon, the offer, the 11th Circuit, and DC all in one neat package.
You raise a great point about the special counsel, because why you even bring in a special counsel is because historically you go, you know what, we don't even want the appearance here of impropriety if there is a scent of a conflict. So we'll create this other layer We'll create this office that is kind of quasi independent, if you will. They'll have the authority. Ultimately, it still has to be connected to the DOJ. But special counsel, you do your thing. You're not under like the direct day to day. You have to bring me this decision to Merrick Garland. It separates it, right? Because the idea is, in our legal system, the type of law school that you and I went to when we learned about law, you don't even want the scent of impropriety. Donald Trump wants the stank of fascism pervading. So the very fact that you would bring in a special counsel versus have it prosecuted from Main Justice is now used against our system, which is actually trying to build in protections for the accused. I mean, it's a point that you brought in there, but I think it's worth kind of fleshing out that way, is that, and then what the Supreme Court ruled in Donald Trump's absolute immunity ruling, that one of the examples that they said would be a core constitutional function or official act would be any type of direct communications between a president and their attorney general. It was just a throwaway line in Justice Roberts' decision, but that throwaway line contradicts the entire separation between and the independence of the Justice Department. What Justice Roberts, right-wing Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, said is that, no, that's absolutely protected. It's an invitation now to say, not only do away with special counsels, the Justice Department, the DOJ, is a weaponized arm of the king because there's now absolute immunity, and that relationship is okay. I mean, just think about that. For forever, the president wouldn't be calling in, hey, AG, come into the Oval Office. Let me tell you what you need to do. And that's precisely what Roberts says is immune. It's a shocking part of that decision, which gives the green light, going back to what we said earlier, to turn the Justice Department into the Gestapo and to round up people in bloody concentration camps, which Donald Trump says he wants to do. And people want to talk around that and go, oh, maybe he just want to do. Listen to his words. That's quite literally what he says. The enemy from within. The military needs to be used on the enemy from within. Who's the enemy from within, Donald? Oh, Democrats, Pelosi, Schiff, people like that. That's who I wanted. That's who I'm going to do it on. The Haitian migrants, but they're here lawfully. No, they're not. Yes, they are. I say they're not. Round them up. That's what he's doing. Wake up, people.
Welcome back. Are you geeking out on Legal AF yet? If you are, and you're already part of our audience, I thank you and I appreciate you. Take that clip, send it off to people in your life and say, hey, Legal AF, now's the time. We're growing our audience right in time for the new election. And if you don't know anything about Legal AF, I'm Michael Popok, and I'm personally inviting you to join us Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and on any place you pick up your audio podcast from, for Legal AF. You can find out what 50 million people a month already know and rely on. The Legal AF is the home of law and politics analysis and commentary like no other. And if you're really geeking out on Legal AF, I have a gift for you. I have a news for you. Legal AF, the YouTube channel. You can find us at Legal AF MTN. That's our handle. And we're over there in collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, doing all the great things you like at the intersection of law and politics. With me as the chief curator, I'm doing a lot of hot takes there, that some of which are on topics deeper dive than what's done on the MeidasTouch Network, deep cuts, and some of it is new stuff that you can only see exclusively on Legal AF, the YouTube channel. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, wherever it may be, I'm Michael Popok, and I'm reporting. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.